Do you understand the difference between a BACnet device ID and the MAC address? This should help clarify it if you don't. So the building automation BACnet MAC addresses, they are set by you and they're limited to 127. So what that means is that as you add more routers to add more BACnet devices, you will end up repeating the MAC address. The BACnet device ID though, or instance, that has to be unique across that whole building or buildings if you have multiple buildings and they're all tied together. You can't have that address repeated right here. The MAC address will end up being repeated on other routers. So, what I mean by that is that typically you're limited to 32 devices per router. And the reason you want to do that is because of the nature of BACnet MSTP. In this case, that's what we're talking about. So the master slave token protocol, because each device needs to have the token. So if you get over 32 and you put a repeater and you end up having 64 or you just keep adding on, well, then everyone has to share that token. So it's a faster network if you limit it to 32, and then you can just separate the building by routers. So this router, when you put the devices on that router, so whatever controllers you have out there, they have to have a unique BACnet ID, so the device ID or instance, and their MAC address has to be unique on that router. When you go to the next router, you can then repeat those MAC addresses, but your device ID or instance still has to be unique. So for example, this controller here, you can see that my MAC address is 10. My max info frames is 1. That is more of how long does it get the token, how much information can it pass. And the max master is 127. If I knew I was only going to have 30 devices on a network, I could limit that to 30, and that might speed up the network. In my case, I just set it to 127. The baud rate, that's different, but that's 38400. But you can see the BACnet device ID right here. That is unique among this whole building. And in this case, I don't have over 127 devices. So then my MAC address is also unique because I don't even have more than one router. If I had a whole bunch of devices, then I'd have to separate those networks out. So I'd have a separate communication link per router. So one communication link would go from a router through 32 controllers, and then the next router would go to the other 32 controllers. To me, it's the MAC address on BACnet MSTP is different than your computer MAC addresses because every networking device has a unique MAC address. So your wireless cards, Ethernet adapters, they both have a unique MAC address. All computer MAC addresses are unique across the world. This isn't the case with BACnet MSTP. The first half of the address for a MAC address for your Ethernet card or wireless card is the company identifier, and the end of that MAC address is like your social security number, which makes that card unique.